Hi there, and welcome. Today, we're going to break down exactly what nonprofits need to know about charitable solicitation registration requirements in Illinois. This explainer is brought to you by Ironwood Registrations, and it's part of our ongoing series on multi-state fundraising compliance. Our whole goal here is to make these complex topics really clear and practical for you.
All right, let's get right into it. Most nonprofit leaders, they pour a ton of energy into getting that federal tax-exempt status from the IRS. And that's absolutely a critical first step, right? But here's the thing that often gets missed. Most states have their own set of rules for how you raise money. It's a totally separate, but just as important, layer of compliance.
So let's make this super clear. If your nonprofit is going to ask for donations from anyone living in Illinois, the general rule is you have to register with the state first, before you even start. So we're going to walk through how it all works, who it applies to, and of course, how you can stay compliant. Okay, first up, who must register? We're going to get into understanding Illinois' regulatory reach. So, the agency you'll be dealing with is the Illinois Attorney General's Charitable Trust Bureau. They're the ones who oversee all the charitable fundraising activities in the state. And you really have to understand just how broad this requirement is. It's not just for nonprofits that are physically located in Illinois. If you're based anywhere else but you're reaching out to Illinois residents for donations, maybe through your website's donate button, you have to register. And the same thing goes if you hire a professional fundraiser to solicit on your behalf in the state.
And when they say solicitation, you gotta know that they define it really, really broadly. We're not just talking about sending letters in the mail. That Donate Now button on your website? Yep, that's a solicitation. Your email campaigns, your social media fundraising, even fundraising events, they all fall under the legal definition in Illinois.
All right, let's get practical and talk about the registration process. Here's a step-by-step guide. When you break it down, it's a pretty straightforward three-step process. First, you'll gather all your key documents. Second, you complete the application. And third, you submit your filing. Pretty simple, right?
So what documents do you need to pull together? Well, it's pretty standard stuff for most nonprofits. You're going to need your organizing documents, like your articles of incorporation and bylaws, your official IRS tax-exempt determination letter, your most recent Form 990, and a list of your officers, directors, and trustees.
And what about the cost? The initial filing fee in Illinois is just $15. It's a really accessible cost, but just keep in mind that other fees could pop up depending on your specific situation.
Now, it's important to know that not every single organization has to go through this. So let's talk about the common exemptions and who might not need to register. Okay, a really big exemption is based on how much money you bring in. If your organization gets less than $15,000 in contributions from all sources in a year, you may be exempt. This is a pretty common threshold you'll see, and it's designed to help out the really small charities.
And besides that financial threshold, there are a few other types of organizations that might be exempt. We're talking about religious organizations, accredited schools and universities, and also certain membership groups that only ask for money from their own members.
Now, here is a really crucial detail specific to Illinois. For most organizations that are exempt, you don't actually have to file anything to claim that exemption. But, and this is a big but, religious organizations are the exception. They have to file specific forms with the Attorney General's office to officially get that exempt status. All right, so once you're registered, you're not done forever. Let's shift gears and talk about ongoing reporting and compliance, which is all about how to maintain your good standing.
A lot of states just have a simple annual renewal form. Illinois is a bit different. They require registered charities to file a more detailed annual financial report every year. This gives the state an updated snapshot of your organization's finances and your fundraising work.
The deadline for this report is super clear. It's due 6 months after your organization's fiscal year ends. So, let's say your fiscal year ends on December 31st. That means your report is due by June 30th. And don't worry, if you need more time, extensions are usually available.
Here's another unique thing about Illinois that applies to first-time registrants. If your organization has asked for donations there in the past before you were registered, you'll have to address that. But don't panic. It can often be resolved just by providing a statement that confirms you didn't solicit in Illinois before your registration date.
Okay, to pull this all together, let's talk about staying compliant. We'll do a quick summary of best practices.
Really, staying compliant just means putting a system in place to keep an eye on a few key things. You absolutely have to track your annual reporting deadlines. You need to be aware of any changes in your fundraising activities. And you've got to keep an eye on financial thresholds and any updates to state regulations, because these things can and do change over time.
And just remember, the whole point of all these rules isn't just to give you more paperwork. It's really all about promoting transparency and protecting donors. And when you do that, you build public trust and you protect your organization's reputation. It's a win-win.
So this brings us to the big question for you and your team to think about. Now that you have a better handle on the requirements, is your organization truly compliant with its fundraising obligations? Not just in Illinois, but everywhere you fundraise.
You know, since fundraising laws can be so different from state to state, managing all of this can get really complex really fast. If your organization could use some help with charitable solicitation registrations, whether it's just in Illinois or across the whole country, that's exactly what we specialize in at Ironwood Registrations. You can learn more over at ironwoodregistrations.com.